So the last case we talk about, and we talk about more in detail, is basically our serious product, if you want to say. No, it's like a really published book by an editor. It's by the art edition Patrick Frey. It's a book about a journalist who died in 2001 called Robert A. Fischer from Zurich. And he was like a typing maniac. Maybe it closes also the circle to the bibliomania book we're working on, but it's just pure accident. Robert Fischer was basically typing every day his whole life, at least 3,000 or 4,000 letters with his typing machine, and later with his computer. And he started as doing mail art and fanzines. Yeah, you could also like basically print his old fanzines, which would be super hip nowadays. He was also did some kind of very special type aesthetics, which a little bit influenced our idea of the book as well. Or, as you can see here, that was this kind of material he produced. Since it was a lot of personal stuff like diaries, or it was full of errors, so the book is not proofread. It's his special language and his stream of consciousness, if you want to name it like this, which is transformed into the book. So in the end, we made a selection of, or that was Gina's work. She made a selection of 240 texts about roughly following an idea of Robert Fischer of a book as well, but he couldn't finish, or he wasn't capable of structurizing his own mind, because he just left a big mess, if I can put it a little bit negative. And so it was a little bit our work, and also the concept of the book to structurizing the content. So it's basically about, of course, it's about design, and we have a closer look at this afterwards, but it's also about structurizing contents and working with statistics, try to figure out parts in the database, assign them to keywords, and figure out with statistical tools which part would be close to another part, and then to establish kind of a linking system between cross-links between texts which could be similar, so that you can basically browse through the books a little bit like with a web browser, jump back and before, or with the Google try your luck button, where you just jump associatively into another part of the book.
Was just talked about this kind of group situations he typed in, the particular look of his leaves he wrote with typewriter and early Mac computers, and we were a little bit inspired, of course, of that kind of aesthetics, and we were also impressed about this certain kind of beauty he really did his leaves. It's not really like it's not a coincidence. This is really done with lots of love, and still it looks kind of crude. So we had to choose a layout in the first instance, apart from the fact that is turning off in an algorithm or so, which is somehow is dealing with these mistakes, with somehow let these mistakes appear in a good way and not pointing them out as a mistake. as the whole book wasn't lectured. And that was for me as a designer, of course, some new situation, not picking out any errors and saying, no, we have to standardize this, or we have to change that. We only changed what we really could change in the database through search and find. This is
basically what can be done also automatically on a text level was done, but it was not like corrected. Just to give some standard.
Yeah, and to keep this spirit alive, which comes from the artist itself. I mean, the text. Did you say that this is very heterogeneous? You said already or not?
No.
From a very very long text, which were published in re-owned magazines, two very short fragments which he wrote whilst he was using drugs, or whilst he was totally drunk. So the range of quality in that sense was very very wide open.
And also the book was like sorted chronologically, so it's also like a biography in a way. He started as a rock and roll writer for wrote critics about music and local Zurich punk rock bands, and then he switched completely sides and studied and was kind of scientific, philosophical. The texts were of course way longer and way more complicated. And ended up as a journalist with a lot of in the end, and with a lot of personal goals.
So this is just like we can look at this, for example. It's a much more easy rule set compared to the first book we showed, the one about the bibliomania. It's just a 1, 2, and 3 column layout, and we gave that column different fonts, which we at the first instant really just said it was like a setting. We have the long texts, the very long ones. This is a 3-row times, and we have the second long ones. This is a 2-row Helvetica, and the shortest one are usually in the Courier, written in the Courier. And that somehow matches because the longest are the best in the sort of quality, and the shortest one, the 1-row Courier, were the most spontaneous written texts.
Yeah, which was kind of funny because we were first thinking of various possibilities how to switch from one font to the other, and we thought of we tagged text in the database, we assigned them to different topics, and in the end, after numerous tryouts, we just found out, hey, actually we can just decide upon the length of the text, because the short ones are, as Rafi said, just kind of drunk written notes, which need kind of a very tolerant layout. And of course the long ones, they're proofread, and so kind of quite correct German language, which can be printed in another grid with another font. But that's also interesting of working together, that how rules develop. Also that when you start thinking of something and you end up on complete other with complete other decisions, you weren't aware of that could be work. As you can see, there are like always like big and small parts where the columns are getting wider or narrower. The wide parts are marked in the database as central for the topic of the text. This is not an automatic process. This was done by hand by Gina, because she was just reading through all the text and working out this this structure. I don't think that it could be done with a machine. Of course, it would be interesting to kind of think of semantic algorithms which analyze the content of the text, but it's quite hard to make. And it's also our approach that we do whatever is possible and makes sense. And from a point on when we think that something is done by hand, we are not afraid to switch the side, basically. And with Fisher book, basically, all the work on the content level is basically a classic editorial work where we just, we analyze text, mark interesting parts or central parts. But how the things are linked together, or how the book develops over all the pages, this is not really under our control, and this is also for us basically the surprising side effect. Oh. Oh, but now you can see all the teeth. On the first, it's written, say thanks to Lisa and Sylvia. Yeah, that's it. So here just some other slides for the one who don't see. The book. For those who are interested, the book is programmed here, in that case, in LaTeX, which is quite famous for scientists. It's very nice and beautiful language which was developed, which is kind of an extension to text, which was developed by Donald Knuth in the 70s. And it really does a lot of things quite beautifully. Text flows and the breaking of lines is really really nicely implemented with LaTeX. The problem is that it was designed for scientists, so they don't have a clue about design. So it does it tries to do as many things as correct as possible. And if you want to basically do something else with it, it's quite hard to modify the LaTeX core or to modify, the system. And instead of the Bibliomania book, we decided to program everything, based upon another PDF library, and so we are in control of the whole algorithm. Here we try to use an existing system and just modify it that much that we have it at the point where we just want to have it. To close the case here, it's Rafa's turn.
Okay. We have talked about books.
We don't want to get rich with that. We try to be as free as possible and learn if we have to have other things.
What makes it maybe scary for publishing houses is that it's process driven. Like the result is process driven in some cases. That's why it makes it like it's definitely time saving. It works.
If it works, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the output of our product so far is a PDF. There is no connection to InDesign. So just to be aware, there is no way you cannot do manually anything. Either way, you have to. Urs has it to do in the code, or probably me or Gina has it to do in the content management system.
Which was quite funny when you were at the printing factory for the Stammtisch, and they asked you to have a closer look at the page, see if everything's correct, and then you just think, can't change it anyway, so you just put it. Which is, of course, a different approach. So, I mean, you said talk about process-driven, and it's for publishing house, of course. It's also a problem for the graphic design. he has to deal with that. Also that thing of once defined a rule and once defined kind of an algorithm, you have an output and you have to live with that. So of course that's what we do. That's why the projects they last so long. You have a whole output and then you have to just be honest with yourself and say it's not there where it should be, and then you start from the beginning. So it's not like working on a you already opened up the bar. It's not like working on details more, that it's like reworking the project from the beginning.
So you have the content and you have the design rules, the style sheet, let's say.
Yeah.
You can see the things on the fly, or you have to wait for the final output to see how it comes out.
It depends a little bit on how complicated the algorithm is, how fast you do. For the Bibliomania book, it's not really on the fly text. Now it takes about 6 minutes to generate a PDF because it has kind of a lot of rooms in it. Also, it's quite hard for computers to balance columns. When you have multi-column layout and you have floating objects in between and all the columns end vertically on the same height, it's basically only possible with many redundant steps. Just shorten the columns up to the point where they're balanced. That makes this process very slow. And it's for us not really important if we have to wait for 20 seconds or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's of course a little bit boring sometimes when you are in a kind of a correction process in the end, but Gina works mostly in the content management, so she doesn't really have to care about the output, and so far it works good with some things, and I'm not interested in optimizing the algorithm, just have it.
Yeah, with the calendar for school, that was set with a preview function. They could look at previous work, and that took them a few seconds, and they had a preview. But it was like, that was leaf-based, it was really based on this is where we also established this algorithm. If there's loads of text, the type size getting smaller. If there is less text, the type size getting bigger, just because we weren't able to offer more space than these two-side leaves. Yeah, once the book is going to be generated from the beginning on, the first to the last page. Again. Okay. Thank you very much.